My ex-wife tried to give her daughter to a wealthy man, and I had to fight to bring her home. I never thought I'd have to prove I deserved my own daughter, especially not against money, especially not against her own mother. But 3 years ago, I found myself standing in a courtroom while my ex-wife's lawyer calmly explained why a billionaire businessman could provide a better future for my little girl than I ever could. And honestly, that sentence still makes me sick. My name's Daniel. I'm 38 now. My daughter Lily is 10. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, my ex-wife technically wasn't trying to sell our daughter in a legal sense. At least not officially. But when you strip away the expensive words, the lawyers, and the fake concern about opportunities, that's exactly what it felt like. This whole nightmare started after my divorce from Vanessa. We'd been together for 11 years, married for 7. At first, Vanessa wasn't a bad person. That's important to say. She wasn't abusive. She wasn't cruel. She genuinely loved Lily. But Vanessa had one massive weakness. She was obsessed with wealth. Not comfort, not stability. Wealth, luxury vacations, designer clothes, status, exclusive social circles. She constantly compared our life to richer people online. And the more social media consumed her brain, the more dissatisfied she became with normal life. Meanwhile, I worked as a mechanic. Not glamorous, but stable. I paid bills, made dinner, took Lily to school, read bedtime stories every night. I thought that mattered. Vanessa eventually decided it didn't. The divorce itself wasn't explosive. Honestly, that almost made it worse. She sat me down one evening and calmly explained that she wanted more out of life. That sentence destroyed me, because apparently being a loyal husband and loving father counted as not enough. A few months later, Vanessa started dating a man named Richard. And Richard was exactly the type of man social media worships. 52 years old, private jet, luxury penthouse, multiple businesses. The kind of man who never smiles naturally because he spent too many years treating life like a negotiation. At first, I try not to judge. People move on after divorce. That's life. But then things started getting weird. Vanessa suddenly wanted to change Lily's school. Her clothes, her hobbies. Everything became about fitting into Richard's wealthy world. Lily used to love painting and soccer. Suddenly, Vanessa was forcing her into etiquette classes and private piano lessons because important families value refinement. Lily hated it. I could see it immediately. She became quieter, more anxious, more withdrawn. One night during my custody weekend, Lily asked me something that genuinely scared me. "Daddy, if mommy marries Richard, do I have to call him Dad?" I remember my stomach physically tightening. I told her, "No, sweetheart, nobody replaces your dad." She looked relieved for a second, then quietly asked, "What if mommy wants him to?" That was the first moment I realized something was deeply wrong. Over time, Vanessa became increasingly obsessed with turning Lily into the perfect image of Richard's future stepdaughter. Designer dresses, formal dinners, expensive private events. And Richard, God, something about him always felt cold to me. He wasn't openly cruel to Lily. That almost would have been easier. Instead, he treated her like an investment, like something to shape. One afternoon, I arrived early to pick Lily up and overheard Richard speaking to Vanessa in the kitchen. He said, "She needs discipline if she's going to fit into this life." That sentence made my skin crawl, because he wasn't talking about a child. He sounded like he was discussing business branding. A few months later, Vanessa announced she planned to move across the country with Richard after they got engaged, and she expected Lily to move with them permanently. I immediately refused. That's when everything escalated. Vanessa accused me of being selfish, jealous, emotionally unstable. According to her, Lily would have better opportunities living with Richard, better schools, better connections, better future. Meanwhile, I lived in a modest apartment and still worked long hours repairing cars. And honestly, for the first time in my life, I felt genuinely ashamed of not being wealthy. Because suddenly I realized money changes how society sees fathers. People started subtly treating me like the lesser option. Even Vanessa's lawyer implied Lily deserved a higher standard of living, as if love becomes less valuable without marble countertops. The custody battle became brutal. Vanessa's legal team painted Richard like some heroic provider rescuing Lily from an average life. Meanwhile, I was reduced to spreadsheets, income reports, and psychological evaluations. Do you know how humiliating it feels having strangers analyze whether you deserve your own child because another man has more money? It destroys something inside you. But the worst part? Lily started panicking. She began having nightmares, stopped sleeping properly, started crying before transitions between houses. One night, she completely broke down while I tucked her into bed. She grabbed my arm crying and said, "Please don't let them take me away from you." I swear to God, hearing that changed me permanently. Because suddenly this wasn't about pride anymore. It wasn't about winning against Vanessa. My daughter was terrified, and I realized nobody in that courtroom truly cared what Lily emotionally needed. They cared about optics, money, prestige, appearances. But Lily didn't want luxury. She wanted safety. The turning point happened during one mandatory family dinner Vanessa forced Lily to attend with Richard's business partners. Lily later told me she accidentally spilled juice on the tablecloth. And according to her, Richard quietly leaned close and whispered, "You embarrass your mother when you behave carelessly." She was 9 years old. 9. When Lily told me that, I saw genuine fear in her face, not childish nervousness. Fear. That same night, she begged me not to send her back. Legally, I had to. And honestly, driving her back to Vanessa's house while she silently cried in the passenger seat is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I barely slept after that. I started documenting everything. Every panic attack, every conversation, every behavioral change. At first, I worried maybe I was overreacting emotionally because of the divorce. But my therapist eventually told me something important. Children don't usually fear loving environments. That sentence stayed in my head constantly. The final breaking point came during a custody evaluation interview. The evaluator asked Lily where she felt safest, and Lily immediately answered, "With my dad." And they asked why. I'll never forget her response. "Because Dad loves me even when I'm not perfect." The room went completely silent. Vanessa started crying instantly. And honestly, part of me still feels sad about that. Because I truly believe Vanessa convinced herself she was helping Lily. That's the terrifying thing about ambition mixed with insecurity. People can justify almost anything if they believe wealth automatically equals happiness. Over the next several weeks, more details came out. Teachers testified that Lily's anxiety had worsened dramatically. A child psychologist noted signs of emotional distress tied specifically to Richard's household expectations. And slowly, the narrative started collapsing. The court eventually denied Vanessa's relocation request. Not only that, I was granted primary custody. I remember sitting in my car, afterward crying so hard I couldn't breathe. Not because I won, because my daughter was finally safe. Vanessa completely spiraled after losing the case. She accused me of manipulating Lily, turning her against her, destroying her future. But honestly, the truth was much simpler. Children are not accessories. You cannot emotionally trade a child's sense of safety for luxury and expect them to thrive. After the custody ruling, Lily changed dramatically. The nightmares slowly stopped. She started laughing again, started painting again. One day, while we were eating pizza on the couch watching cartoons, she suddenly looked at me and asked, "Dad, are we poor?" I laughed a little and said, "Not really. Why?" And she shrugged and quietly said, "Because Richard always talked like normal people were failures." That sentence genuinely broke my heart. Because no child should grow up believing love matters less than status. It's been 3 years now. Vanessa and Richard eventually separated. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Relationships built entirely around image eventually collapse under their own emptiness. Vanessa still sees Lily occasionally, and over time, their relationship slowly improved. Therapy helped a lot, especially after Vanessa finally admitted something painful. She spent so much time trying to give Lily an extraordinary life that she almost destroyed her ordinary happiness. And honestly, that's the biggest lesson I took from all of this. Children do not need perfect lives. They need emotional safety, consistency, love. No private jet on earth can replace that. Sometimes the parent with the smaller apartment, the older car, and the simpler life is still the richest person in the room where it actually matters.